Joe here. Thanks for visiting Road Trip Joe, and thank you for being my patron. Thanks to Barry and Bonnie, I now have some binoculars and a bird book, the Sibley Birds West book, written by David Allen Sibley, who is the definitive word on birds. And this one is just for the western United States, or the western North America, I should say. And he illustrated all of this. I'm blown away by how many birds there really are, how many subspecies, how birds might be a little different in their feathers, in their feet, in their bills. I've been reading it. I've been kind of trying to catch up with everybody else. So today we're going to observe some birds over there at the bird feeders. There's one with regular seed in it, and then there's a hummingbird feeder. They get a lot of hummingbirds here. So wish me luck. Let's see how I do. My new bird book was written by this guy, David Allen Sibley. So who is this guy? Well, David, who was born in 1961, is an American ornithologist. I guess an ornithologist means he studies birds. He is the author and illustrator of tons of bird books, and they are considered the most comprehensive guides for identifying North American birds. He's written about 10 books actually on birds, so from now on, he's my guy. Who needs John Audubon, right? So what is it we need to know about birds first? Well, there are something like 10,000 species of birds in the world. At least that's what they thought for a long time. But still, that's a lot. And now, a new study by the American Museum of Natural History suggests there might be around 18,000 different species of birds. Wow. But unless we count all of them, we can only guess how many birds actually live on this planet Earth. Low estimates are around 200 billion. But many experts suggest that around 400 billion birds populate our planet. That's billion with a B. But for me, I think it's best if I just concentrate on just the western birds of the North American continent. Actually, let's just concentrate on these 2 bird feeders, shall we? Oh, and I have a special guest today for identifying some of these birds. My old friend Paul is helping me out on telling me which ones are which. And Paul is doing it without a book. But I'll stick with the book for now. Okay, here we go.
So what kind are they? I know it's an Anna, isn't it? And I saw those little tiny ferocious rufous hummingbirds that you get. I don't see any today. So is that a towhee, that bird with the orangish rump?
Oh, I don't know.
California towhee, maybe a female? Or maybe it's a male. Often hard to tell, except that the males seem to generally be showier than the females. Oh, there's a little house finch on the tip of that branch. Now it's over there at the feeder on the other side. What's that little bird on this side? Sort of a grayish brown, smaller bird. I'm not sure entirely what it is. Several of them. Well, that looks to be a sparrow that just landed there. And another one on the liquid feeder, which I think, yeah, that looks to have some red. I think it's probably a house finch. And the house finches haven't been here in a while, but they've returned. Oh, off in the distance there, a couple of beautiful black-shouldered kites. There are quite a few black-shouldered kites here in this valley. You don't see many of them elsewhere. They're beautiful birds, long tails, sort of striking-looking birds. And when you see them in the sky, they're almost entirely white. While their shoulders are black, their shoulders are usually on top. Well, there we go. There is a California blue jay. Easterners call them scrub jays. You know, it's a beautiful bird, actually, but different from the eastern blue jay. Theirs, they considered a genuine blue jay. Ours is merely a scrub jay. The arrogance of the Easterner. Red-winged blackbirds are kind of ubiquitous. I don't remember them in Southern California, but when I lived in the Midwest, they were everywhere. And there was an alternative blackbird, a yellow-headed blackbird, and the yellow head was so striking and such a contrast to the black of the body. It was extraordinary. And those were birds that migrated, and you would see them only in the spring or the fall of the year, generally in wetlands along the side of roads, and often in a flock of a dozen or even 20 or more. One of the most beautiful birds I've ever seen, the yellow-headed blackbird. But even the ubiquitous red-winged blackbird is quite gorgeous. In some parts of the country, they have what they call a tricolored blackbird, about the size of the red wing, but it's got both red and yellow on the wing and is otherwise quite black. Oh, there we go. You're on camera. A beautiful male hooded oriole at the liquid bird feeder over there, and then on the other feeder, a lovely red house finch. One day in the fall of the year, late fall, early winter in Minnesota, and this is northern Minnesota, it gets kind of cold. At the onset of deer hunting season, I lament the fact that I was once a deer hunter, but I had the grace to eat what I killed, I'd have to say. So I didn't have a tree stand, but I could climb, and I climbed way up in an oak tree, about 30 feet above the ground into the crotch of the tree, and I was carrying the only gun I owned, a single barrel 12 gauge Stevens shotgun, and I could see a long ways. I could see probably the better part of a mile across my pasture. Far off to the east, I saw a bird flying, fairly good sized bird flying, and it kept flying sort of in my direction into the pasture in front of me, and about a quarter mile away it flew down and landed on some of this willow brush right on the edge of this ditch, and sat there for a moment looking around, and I could tell it was a hawk. I couldn't tell necessarily what kind of a hawk it was. And then finally the hawk flew up from that willow brush about a quarter mile away and started flying away, but was flying not away from me, but toward me, right toward me, as a matter of fact. And I watched it, and it kept getting closer and closer and closer. and actually commenced to land on a branch right next to me, 18 inches in front of my face. And at that point I could tell what kind of bird it was. It was a Cooper's hawk. And I'd never been that close to a hawk of any kind. Its eyes were the most vivid orange, bright orange that I've ever seen in my life. And it landed on this branch right in front of my face, 18 inches away, and looked at me. Now, I think it probably wondered this was its territory, but I think it was kind of surprised to find me there, and it had come to investigate. Well, I was kind of terrified. It was a precarious, very precarious seat I had in the crotch of that tree, 30 feet up in the air. This Cooper's hawk, perched up high in that tree right in front of my face, was a ferocious looking animal. Just ferocious looking. And it looked right at me. And I'll be honest, I was terrified. I was very much afraid the bird would simply commence to attack. And there wouldn't be a hell of a lot I could do about it. I was holding my shotgun in one hand and trying to keep myself up in the tree, holding a branch in the other hand. I don't think I breathed for a minute or a minute and a half, and just stared at that bird, and that bird, that Cooper's hawk, just stared at me, and I was afraid it would just explode and come right for my face and pluck my rather dull eyes right out of my head. Fortunately, after a minute or a minute and a half, it decided there were probably more interesting things to do with its time, and it headed off into the sunset. And I heaved a very big sigh of relief. I still had my eyes, I had not been knocked out of the tree, and I had experienced one of the more vivid episodes of my entire life.
Thanks, Paul. You certainly know your birds. And thanks for the story. Okay, I'll stick with the book for a while and see how many birds I can mark off the next few weeks and months. But it's not like I haven't done some birding before, you know. I did have one trip that involved quite a few birds. I bet you don't see these in California. That's all I got.
There's some turkey vultures eating something. Oh, and there's one of them spreading his wings out. There we go. Oh, look at him. Oh, I wonder what he's doing. He's sunning. Something dead over there. Yeah. Turkey vultures. Don't think I've seen them actually land around here. There's another one. There's another one flying in. There's a whole bunch of them.